Welcome everyone to the Comic Review. My name is Eric, and today we're going to take a look at the first part of the Super League in Superman number 51. This storyline was dubbed the Super League during, I believe, the WonderCon DC Rebirth panel that they had. It's one of the main storylines leading up to Superman's new status quo in DC Rebirth. This issue, as well as the entire 8-part storyline over the next 2 months, is written by Peter Tomasi. This issue in particular was drawn and colored by Mikhail Janin. I hope I'm saying that name right. I, for one, have been reading both main Superman books, Superman Action Comics, as well as Supergirl, Batman, Superman, Superman, Wonder Woman. I've been reading all those books, the entire New 52. I want to say that this is probably the first time I feel like I'm reading a Superman that I actually cared about in a way. Really fully didn't care for the portrayal of Superman, how he was written throughout the New 52. That might be because there wasn't really a definitive writer throughout the whole series. I think the longest running writer that we had was Grant Morrison in the first 18 plus issues of Action Comics, and I believe half of that was in the past anyway. I know there's a lot of turnover in DC. Scott Lobel wrote for a while. Various other writers had taken over. This story, this portrayal of Superman, I feel, is the most genuine. Like I said, it reminds me more of a Superman that I actually grew up with and care about than the one that we've seen the last 5 years. Let's go ahead and dive into the events portrayed in this issue. First of all, the very first thing we see, Superman's face, one big panel, full page panel, and he says, "I'm dying." I don't know if it's on Comic Review yet, but when I did the video on the full announcements of creative teams and whatnot for DC Rebirth from WonderCon, one of the main things I pointed out there was that we know definitively that the pre-New 52, pre-Flashpoint Superman is going to be Superman in the books starting in June. And there's mention of a Clark Kent in those books. But the problem is that nowhere is it really mentioned that Clark Kent is the New 52 Superman, and that he's depowered. We know there's going to be Superman and Clark Kent definitively in Action Comics. I'm not sure about it in Superman proper, but in Action Comics we know there's going to be both those characters. So I made mention in that video that my belief was that Superman was going to die as a result of something. Some big earth-shattering event is going to happen in the Superman books during the Super League storyline, or as I guess we now call it, the Final Days of Superman storyline. And DC pretty much says it right at the beginning of the issue, "I'm dying." As of this recording, it's April 22nd right now, so this review is late. I think Batman Superman number 31 is already out, and I've read that. And Action Comics 51 is out, and I've read that issue too. So the storyline so far is Superman kind of saying his goodbyes. So without revealing too much about those later issues, I'll get to those in the next videos. But so far, a major point of these videos is Clark saying goodbye to all his friends, and again, setting up the fact that he may be passing away in this story. So there are 3 things in DC proper that have happened that apparently are causing the death of Superman. If you were just reading the Superman books, you know that during the Savage Dawn storyline, which topped off the Truth series that was going on, that Superman took a bath in a big giant container of kryptonite, gained some weird changes to his powers, but was eventually cured of the essentially cellular decay that was going on in his body that was stealing his powers during the entire issues with Vandal Savage. So that was going on in the main Superman books, Action Comics, Superman, Batman Superman, and Superman Wonder Woman. Other things going on with Superman at the time that affected this, there is the storyline going on in JLA, which I have not been reading. It's one of the stories I'm actually behind on. I don't even know if I have any of the current issues. But Superman fights Rao in that, and I hope I'm saying that name right again. And that storyline, that's a second thing that causes this issue with Superman possibly dying. The other thing is the Darkseid War storyline in Justice League proper, and specifically Superman being thrown into the fire pits on Apocalypse and gaining the godlike powers. That's another thing that causes him to start dying, starting on this road. I think he calls it the perfect kill shot or something like that in the issue. Unfortunately, it's sealed right here next to me, so I can't go ahead and look. But regardless, those three events are what's causing him to now start dying. He's slowly getting sicker, more tired, and he's basically accepted at this point. He's angry about it. But he and Crypto are having some final words in the Fortress of Solitude. The side story going on here is that Dr. Omen, at the lowest plateau, she is attempting to hack into the Fortress of Solitude. It's apparently lost some of its firewall protection and whatnot after being merged with the JLA Watchtower and the Stormwatch base. So because of this vulnerability, Dr. Omen is hacking into the Fortress of Solitude. Superman's able to stop it. And then he goes on a kind of a 2-page montage of saving various people before he gets back into saying his goodbyes to his friends. The first one he goes to is Lana Lang, his childhood friend, first person to know he was Kryptonian, that he had superpowers. He goes to visit her, and the art at this point is really what sells a lot of this storyline going on. I felt very emotionally connected to what's going on. Lana's losing someone who's been like a brother to her growing up, and if you've lost anybody in your life, you can empathize with the situation going on. The art at this point was beautiful. I really felt the character's emotion. The writing was spot on. It really made it feel like these two characters have been best friends growing up for a long time, and this is essentially their goodbye to each other. He tells Lana that he wants her to try to bury him with his human parents if she can, to make it happen so that way he can be at rest there with them, which again is touching. And like I said, it's mossy, especially between this and his issues of Batman and Robin during the fallout to the death of Damian during the Batman Incorporated storyline. He knows how to write grieving characters in a way that makes you emotionally connected to them, and I appreciate that from that writer. So, like I said, very emotionally invested in this story just based on that. We then come back over to Dr. Omen after the failed attempt at hacking the Fortress of Solitude. She goes to speak to a figure in a tube in this lab, and basically saying that person's time will come. Not sure if this is an introduction to new Superman, one of the new books that's going to be coming out in June, July sometime, with a Chinese Superman, but this is kind of what this is alluding to, I'm assuming. The next thing we see is a truck driver stopping at a pit stop, gets pulled over by a police officer, ID'd as someone who had just broken into prison. He escapes from the police officer, starts to drive away, and he gets hit by a bolt of energy, and now he thinks he's Superman. So I don't know what this is coming from. It almost looks like he's using like some cross between the super flare that was introduced during the Superman book and the Human Torch's powers, with a Superman shield on his chest. But the guy now thinks that he's Superman after getting hit by this bolt of energy. So I'm sure that's going to play off in the next few issues of the storyline. So that takes us to the ending of the book, where Superman goes to visit Lois. Speaking about the emotional connections between the characters, this was probably the most emotionally invested I have seen Lois and Clark during the last 50 some odd months of the New 52. The decision to make Lois and Clark not married in the New 52, I think, really hurt her character more than anything, because it just didn't seem like she was important to the New 52. Even going into this issue, rereading again for this video, she says, stuff like, all the fights and everything we had over the secret identity reveal and this, that, and the other. It makes me, the thing I miss most was talking to my best friend, but I never fully 100% got that they were best friends throughout the entire run of New 52. If anything, I feel like she friend-zoned him. She friend-zoned Superman, essentially, or Clark Kent. But at no full point in the story, even during the whole Psy-War thing where she gained telepathic powers and was connected to Brainiac, going into the Doom storyline and anything like that, and even during Morrison's run, I never felt a connection between Lois and Clark that they had in the past. Going through and reading, catching up on Lois and Clark, or Superman Lois and Clark, with the married Clark Kent and Lois Lane, that book made me realize how much I missed the true interactions between Lois and Clark. And I'm glad, again, Tomasi's bringing that back into their relationship, even at the end here, where it seems like Clark's going to be gone in a month and a half. I'm loving the way that they're portraying these characters, because it's like we're steering the ship back into the direction it needs to be going, even in the final hours. So Superman takes her away. They go off and fly off into the night, and he basically tells her that he wants her to write the story about Superman and Clark Kent. Basically wants her to write their biography, I guess. So I can't remember for the next issue if they touch on that anymore, or if they just go into Clark going to visit Batman. But yeah, it's again, this issue was very much Clark going to see two of the main women in his life, basically his first two loves, and saying goodbye to them. So, like I said, a very, very touching moment all around. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm very emotionally invested into the storyline. I think Tomasi writes grieving characters and is able to make those emotional connections with characters very well. The art in this book I thought was very well done. It was able to convey the emotion between all the characters. There were no real major fights that had to happen, but I feel like it was a very good book, even without like what some people would think would be the necessary major action scenes that have to be in the superhero comic book. This is just a very emotional story so far. Like I said, by this point I have read Batman, Superman, as well as Action Comics, so just this issue alone, I'm invested into this storyline. I very much want to see what happens. Even without the obvious rebirth tie-in, this story is, I think, going to resonate with people and be something that people are going to be talking about for a while afterwards. So be sure to check out the next video where we're going to be reviewing Batman Superman number 31, which is essentially Superman's, again, tour of saying goodbye to all his friends, where he goes to visit Bruce Wayne, Batman, in the next issue, which is obvious since it's going to happen in the book Batman Superman. So look out for that video soon, in the next few days. So what are your thoughts so far on the final days of Superman? Are you enjoying the storyline so far? All the issues, not just this issue. What are your opinions on DC possibly killing off Clark Kent Superman, New 52 version? Do you think they're going to kill him off? Do you think he's just going to lose his powers by the end of it? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next review. Later.